couples in the reality TV industry have won over viewers' hearts as much as Joey Duan and Yara. However, the cameras only captured a portion of the story, as is the case with many reality romances. Beneath the Instagram perfect photos and smiles, a marriage was gradually disintegrating due to financial difficulties, family conflicts and secrets. Dufren Jovi and Yara. On August 27, 2025, they formally divorced due to family conflicts. However, the divorce was just the start. It has been discovered from an unidentified source. For a year, Joey Duan and Anna had been quietly dating. Finally, on January 16, 2026, they will formally tie the knot. Jovi chose to marry Anna when she agreed to settle Jovi Dufren's hidden $900,000 debt, and Joan divorces his wife Yara. Following that, Yara sued her husband Jovi for defamation. Jovan was found guilty by the court after the trial and given a 1-year prison sentence. Chaos ensued. This is the unsung tale of survival, heartache, and treachery. An account of how one of 90 Day Fiancé's most well-known couples was destroyed by love, money, and desperation. We delve deeply into the bombshell that shook reality TV tonight. This is Jovi and Yara's story. From secrets to jail, from celebrity to divorce. There was a romance before the scandals, before the lawsuits, before the startling jail term. One that gave viewers hope that love might, just might, be able to transcend time zones, distance, and culture. A Louisiana native named Jovi was accustomed to adventure as a native. He traveled a lot for his job, which involved underwater robotics for oil rigs. However, loneliness accompanied travel, and he ended up using an international dating app as a result of his loneliness. There, he encountered Yara, a beautiful young Ukrainian woman who immediately drew his interest with her audacious demeanor and witty humor. They clicked right away. Video calls replaced online chats, and before long, Joy was flying half the world to meet her face to face. On 90 Day, viewers first encountered them. In Fiancé Season 8, Yara's demands for stability and commitment ran counter to Joy's carefree party lifestyle. Their relationship was far from easy from the start. Yara found it difficult to adapt to life in New Orleans, where Joy's drinking and late nights sometimes caused arguments. When they were getting ready to welcome their daughter Mila, Joy struggled to live up to Yara's expectations of duty. However, in spite of the disputes and despite cultural differences, they had a certain allure. Every week, viewers tuned in, hoping the couple would succeed. It seemed like the ideal conclusion to a fast-paced affair when they finally got married in 2020. Social media exploded with congrats. They had heartwarming family moments with newborn Mila. Additionally, Joy and Yara appeared to have overcome the odds for a while. They had turned into one of 90 Day Fiancé's success stories, demonstrating that love could endure in the most trying situations. However, underneath the surface, fissures were beginning to appear. Every couple has their struggles, a Reddit user would subsequently post. Every love story has its shadows, and for Jovi and Yara, those shadows seemed almost permanent. However, Joy and Yara always had that tension, like they were holding on to something fragile. Those early tensions, the arguments about lifestyle, money, and family were only the beginning. Over time, those cracks would grow into deep fractures that no amount of love or cameras could fix. Jovi and Yara appeared to be a dream couple, complete with a love story, TV fame, and a gorgeous baby girl named Mila who gave them a new purpose. However, behind the public smiles, life at home was much more complicated, and Joy's job remained one of the biggest challenges. Working in underwater robotics for offshore oil rigs meant weeks or even months away from home, but for Joy, it was just part of his life. I came to America to start a life together, not to be alone all the time. Yara once admitted in a heartfelt moment on the show that she wanted stability, a partner who was there, and a home full of family moments, but for her, who had left her home, family, and entire support system in Ukraine, it was intolerable. Instead, she frequently found herself alone in a foreign country, juggling motherhood and loneliness. As for Jovi, he struggled to change. Drinks, friends, and late-night parties had characterized his life before marriage, But now Yara expected him to transition into a full-time family man. This wasn't an easy transition, and viewers noticed the cracks. Arguments over Joy's drinking, late nights, and his inability to prioritize family life became recurring themes on the show, and some fans felt sorry for Yara because she was a young mother who had been abandoned by her. Others said that Yara should have been more understanding because she knew who Joy was before she married him, but the truth was more nuanced than either side realized. In addition to the drinking and late nights, there were family conflicts simmering beneath the surface, and Yara frequently clashed with Joy's relatives, who didn't always agree with her direct, no-nonsense personality. To them, she appeared demanding, even cold at times, but to Yara, she was just standing her ground in a culture that wasn't her own. Then there was money. While the couple displayed vacations, shopping trips, and a stylish lifestyle on social media, financial strain was subtly growing. Yara wanted security, a stable home, savings, and a future she could rely on. Jovi, on the other hand, had habits that weren't in line with long-term planning or saving. Fans watching at home could sense when they were caught in a tug-of-war between their wives and their families, living two separate lives. "She wants roots," a viewer tweeted following an episode. "He wants freedom." By 2023 and 2024, it was harder to ignore these cracks. The arguments were about trust, responsibility, and priorities, and although they were still in love, their ideas of what a marriage should be were becoming more and more different. In retrospect, it's evident that the early cracks in their marriage were the storm's warning signs. Distance. The conflicts between their lifestyles, family conflicts, and financial concerns combined to form a shaky foundation. According to a close friend, they appeared flawless on Instagram, but behind closed doors, they were engaged in battles that no one else could see. Eventually, those battles would break the facade of a fairy tale marriage and drive Jovi and Yara to a breaking point that neither of them could have predicted. Love can withstand distance and even cultural conflicts. Unbeknownst to many, Joy was concealing a huge secret from Yara, a debt that had increased to almost $900,000. How did it get that high? Sources close to the couple later revealed that it wasn't just one mistake. When financial difficulties enter the picture, they have the power to destroy even the strongest bonds. By 2024, Jovi and Yara's marriage was already under strain, but beneath the arguments about drinking, travel, and family lay a much darker problem that would eventually destroy everything they had built. The truth was straightforward. Joy was drowning in financial troubles. Some whispered about gambling losses, citing Joy's well-known love of casinos and late nights in New Orleans. Others suggested failed investments, money poured into ventures that promised quick returns but delivered nothing but debt. There were even rumors of loans taken out confidentially, debts hidden in paperwork Yara never saw. When it came to money, Yara had always been astute, meticulous, and realistic. As she ran the household and attempted to make plans for the future, she noticed discrepancies. "Why don't we have more savings?" she once asked in a filmed episode, her frustration evident in her voice. Jolie dismissed it, saying that bills, travel, and expenses were depleting their income, but Yara knew something wasn't right. Friends remember Yara venting privately. "I feel like he's hiding something from me. I can't plan our future if I don't even know what's going on." For Joy, the debt wasn't just financial. It was emotional. He was carrying a burden he couldn't admit to anyone, not even his wife. Vacations were getting harder to afford. Luxuries they once flaunted on social media were reduced, and Jo's irritability whenever money came up made her even more suspicious. "Debt doesn't just weigh on your wallet, it weighs on your soul," one financial expert later said when the story broke, and keeping it a secret only multiplies the damage. As the debt grew, Joy started to rely on unhealthy coping mechanisms, nights out increased, and alcohol became a constant. He kept quiet, smiled for the cameras, and pretended everything was fine, but deep down the walls were closing in. Companion. The same way of life that had previously caused friction in their marriage had now become his means of escape from reality, but each night out and each poor choice drove him farther away from Yara. It was in this period of desperation and secrecy that Joy found solace in someone else, someone who would later play the most shocking role in the story, Anna. By mid-2025, the financial strain had peaked, bills were mounting, it was getting harder to ignore calls from creditors, and Yara's ire was erupting. The marriage was already shaky, but the secret burden of almost $1 million in debt made it impossible to mend. Then, just when Joy thought he had no other option, Anna intervened with a deal that would change everything. If he chose her, she would pay off all of his debt, all $900,000. This startling agreement would lead to a series of betrayals, divorces, lawsuits, and jail time. But to Joy, it felt like salvation at that very moment. According to a close friend, they always come out. When Joy's secret was revealed, it not only destroyed his marriage but also his entire life. Every scandal has a name, and in the case of Joy and Yara's demise, that name was Anna. Fans conjectured about the identity of this enigmatic woman for months, and when rumors first circulated that Joy had been seen with someone other than Yara, many people wrote them off as rumors, but the truth was much more explosive. Long before his marriage officially ended, he had been in a relationship with Anna for more than a year. Who is Anna? According to friends, she was introduced to Joy through mutual acquaintances in the New Orleans social scene. Unlike Yara, who had left everything behind to start over in America, Anna was a local, so she knew the nightlife, the culture, and the freedom that Jove desired. Anna was described as self-assured, independent, and charismatic, and she soon became someone Jovi relied on, not just for fun, but for emotional support. With Anna, I didn't feel judged. Jovi reportedly told a friend in a private conversation. She let me be me. For more than a year, Jovi lived two lives. Off camera, he was slipping away to spend time with Anna, while on camera, he was the husband and father trying to keep his marriage together. Dinner dates in quiet neighborhoods, weekend getaways posing as work trips, and numerous late-night phone calls created a web of secrecy. Although Anna was aware of Yara, her relationship with Jovi deepened with each month, and the more Joy confided in her, the closer they became. At the heart of those discussions was a subject that troubled him every day: money. When Joy finally disclosed the full extent of his financial difficulties, Anna took an unexpected step and, rather than fleeing, she offered to help him pay off his nearly $900,000 debt. Why would anyone make such a deal? The offer created the ultimate dilemma for Jovi. On the one hand, he had Yara, the wife he had built a family with. On the other, he had Yara, who was deeply in love with Joe and thought their future together was worth the risk. On the other hand, some say that Anna, who came from a wealthy background, saw it as a chance to rescue him and prove her loyalty. Whatever her reasons, Anna's commitment was key. The decision became more obvious with each fight, argument at home, and creditor ringing his phone. On the other side, he had Anna, the woman who promised him acceptance, freedom, and a financial lifeline. In Anna, Jolie saw an escape, not just from debt, but from the pressure of being the man Yara wanted him to be. It was never just about love. A close source later revealed it was about survival. Anna gave him a way out and he took it. By the middle of 2025, fans started to notice subtle clues. Social media posts with a woman who wasn't Yara, but the backgrounds didn't always match his story. Entertainment blogs soon began to notice the rumors, and the name Anna began to show up in common threads, articles, and tabloid headlines. For Yara, the betrayal was devastating, and for fans, it was a scandal they didn't anticipate, a deal sealed in love or money. As August 2025 drew near, Joy made his decision. The marriage with Yara was over, and with Anna by his side, he was prepared to begin a new life. Their relationship was no longer a secret. It was a headline. Paparazzi caught them holding hands, with Anna grinning as if she had already won. Behind the scenes, their plans were proceeding swiftly, and on January 16, 2026, the woman who had previously been the other woman's secret would marry Joy. However, the world couldn't help but wonder, was this marriage built on love or on a $900,000 deal that Joy couldn't refuse? Love stories can occasionally, and sometimes they're written in dollar signs. Jovi and Anna's story had both, which is what made it so dangerous. Every marriage has disagreements, but some arguments are more than just disagreements. There are signs of an ending. For Jovi and Yara, 2025 became the year that their marriage finally fell apart. By early 2025, the tension between Jovi and Yara was unmistakable, and what had appeared to be minor cracks had now grown into deep fractures. Yara had reached a point where she could no longer conceal her frustration. She wanted stability, she wanted transparency, she wanted a husband who stood by her side, not one who vanished into the night or avoided difficult conversations. But Joy was moving farther away. With each argument, he spent more time outside the house. With each financial question, he provided evasive answers, and with each family argument, he withdrew into silence. Even casual viewers of 90 Day Fiancé could sense something was amiss. Yara frequently felt alone and misunderstood by his relatives, who didn't always welcome her strong personality. They saw her as demanding, even controlling. She saw them as dismissive and unsupportive, and arguments spilled into family gatherings. Their home, which had once been filled with laughter and the sounds of their daughter, Mila, had become a battleground of sharp words, slammed doors, and long nights apart. Yara's suspicions about Joy's secret life grew around this time, as evidenced by the unexplained absences, the hidden phone calls, and the defensiveness whenever she asked about money. Jove, who was torn between his wife and his family, frequently chose silence, which made Yara feel even more abandoned. She was fighting battles alone, as a close friend later explained, and when Joy didn't stand beside her, she began to question everything. One evening, insiders claim, Yara confronted Jovi directly, demanding to know what was going on, why the finances didn't add up, why he seemed emotionally distant, and why she felt like he was living two lives. Joy's response was evasive, dismissing her worries and claiming she was overreacting, but his body language suggested otherwise. For Yara, the silence was more telling than words, and by the middle of 2025, she was mentally, emotionally, and physically exhausted. She had attempted to keep the marriage intact, but she felt she was the only one fighting. She eventually told a friend, "You stop asking questions. You already know the truth." When she heard rumors of Joy's relationship with Anna, she didn't want to believe it at first because betrayal of that magnitude seemed unimaginable, but as the evidence mounted, photos, messages, and mysterious trips, the truth became clear that the man she had built a life with, the father of her child, had been leading a double life. It was explosive. Yara demanded honesty. Joard finally acknowledged what she feared most, that he was in a real relationship with Anna, and worse, that Anna had offered to pay off his crippling debt, something Yara had only recently started to discover. For Yara, this was the ultimate betrayal. Not only had her husband cheated, but he had also allowed money to dictate the future of their marriage. In her own words, it wasn't just cheating. It was selling out our family for money. That broke me. More than anything else, there was no turning back after that night. Their arguments had always ended in reconciliation before, but this time the line had been crossed, trust was gone, love was tainted, and the future they had once dreamed of was gone. On August 27, 2025, just weeks after the truth came to light, Joel and Yara's divorce was finalized in court, marking the official end of their love story, the one that millions of fans had believed in, according to a close source. A love story that had once won over millions of hearts reached its climax on a warm summer morning on August 27, 2025, when Joan and Yara's marriage was officially terminated. The brief divorce hearing was accompanied by an enormous waiter, and Joy and Yara sat across from each other for what would be their final time as husband and wife inside a New Orleans courthouse. The atmosphere was described by observers as tense but oddly quiet. Yara, on the other hand, seemed composed, though her eyes bore the weight of heartbreak and betrayal. Dressed elegantly in muted tones, she presented herself as strong, unbroken, and ready to move forward. Sometimes silence speaks louder than words. Jovi looked exhausted, his normally lively demeanor dulled by weeks of scandal and sleepless nights. No last-minute pleas for reconciliation. Just two people who had been through too much pain to fight any longer. But neither of them said anything. The judge swiftly went over the terms, granting Jovi visitation rights and settling custody arrangements for their daughter, Mila, with Yara as the primary guardian. Assets were divided, though debt and arguments had already eroded much of their wealth. And then, with the slam of a gavel, it was done. On August 27, 2025, Joe and Yara were no longer husband and wife, and the marriage that had once been celebrated on television screens all over the world was suddenly over. Fans who had cheered for the couple's success expressed heartbreak, while others who were less sympathetic said they had seen it coming for years. Within hours, the news made headlines on entertainment websites. 90 Day Fiancé stars Jovi and Yara officially split. Divorce confirmed. Yara walks away after betrayal. $900,000 debt and infidelity destroy Joy's marriage. One of the most popular tweets read, "I wanted them to make it so badly, but Jovi never changed. Yara deserved better." Another fan wrote, "Cheating is bad enough, but choosing money over family, that's unforgivable." Days after the divorce, Yara posted a carefully worded statement on social media stating, "My focus now is on my daughter and building a life we can be proud of." Although she didn't specifically mention Joy, her words were clear. Sometimes love is not enough. Sometimes respect and honesty matter more. Fans showered her page with support, praising her fortitude and fortitude. Joy wasn't just dealing with a divorce. He was also navigating the fallout from his secret relationship with Anna and preparing for a scandal that was about to explode into the public eye. Nearly overnight, Jovi became a symbol of empowerment and independence, but he stayed mostly silent about it, avoiding direct mentions of the divorce aside from a few ambiguous posts about starting over and focusing on the future. Some fans interpreted his silence as exhaustion, while others saw it as guilt. Felt like the end of an era. Jovi and Yara had been one of 90 Day Fiance's most memorable couples, representing the difficulties and the possibilities of cross-cultural love. Their breakup served as a painful reminder that not all reality TV fairy tales endure. However, for Jovi and Yara, the divorce wasn't the end of their marriage. Rather, it was the start of a new, even darker chapter that would be filled with legal battles, jail time, and a contentious new engagement. In many ways, it was just the start of the scandal that would define them both. When one door closed, another one opened. But for Jovi Duan, the new door was a path into even deeper scandal rather than a path to redemption. Rumors started to circulate just days after the divorce papers were signed on August 27, 2025, when fans saw him out in public with a woman who wasn't Yara, and paparazzi photos appeared of him holding hands with someone whose identity had been a mystery. Anna, the woman Jovi had been secretly seeing for more than a year, the one who had supported him through financial turmoil, and the one who had offered to pay off his $900,000 debt, made headlines very quickly. The news was revealed, and for fans, it felt like a second betrayal. Many had just come to terms with the heartache of Jovi and Yara's divorce when they were abruptly faced with the reality of Joy's double life. Poured in. So he was cheating all along. Wow, Anna really bought herself a husband. For Yara, she deserved better than the circus. While some critics denounced Joy's behavior, others started portraying Anna as the bad guy. Some accused her of taking advantage of Joy's weakness for her own gain, but others disagreed. A smaller but vocal group defended the relationship, saying that Anna had supported Joy when no one else had, saying, "At least she helped him when Yara gave up." The fan base was divided, but one thing was clear, one admirer commented. The romance between Jovi and Anna was now the main story. As shocking as Anna's revelation was, what followed shocked everyone even more. Jovi proposed to Anna in early September 2025, just weeks after his divorce. According to friends close to the couple, the proposal was simple but sincere. Joe gave Anna a ring over dinner in a private setting, thanking her for saving him money but the engagement was more than just love. It was weighed down by Joy's debt, Anna's vow to pay it off, and the scandal that surrounded them both. Within days, the couple announced that Jovi and Anna would tie the knot on January 16, 2026. The timing infuriated fans. His divorce papers were barely dry, and he was planning another wedding. The backlash grew less than 5 months after the divorce, and one fan said, "That's not love, that's desperation." Reddit user remarked, "This isn't a love story. This is a transaction." Another user commented, "The story was devoured by tabloids." Betrayal, scandal, and shamelessness were all over the headlines. Whole parts of entertainment shows are devoted to analyzing Joy's decisions. In a few weeks, Joy transitions from divorce to engagement. Joy's debt of $900,000 is settled by Anna. 2026 is the date of the win. Is this a business deal or is it love? For her part, Anna didn't apologize. She defended Jovi and their connection in interviews, adamant that their possessions were authentic. She told one publication that people will say whatever they want. However, I am aware of what we already have and what we are creating together. The engagement was like salt on an open wound for Yara. She was devastated, according to people close to her, not only by the treachery but also by how fast Jovi had moved on. He didn't wait at all. According to reports, she told a friend, "It's like our marriage meant nothing." Yara maintained her composure in public, concentrating on her daughter and her career. However, eventually, the pain of betrayal and humiliation drove her to make a choice that would alter everything: to sue Jovi. For Jovi, the engagement was meant to be a fresh start. Rather, it served as the catalyst for the subsequent conflagration, which would take him from organizing a wedding to a courtroom and ultimately to jail. According to a talk show pundit, every engagement is meant to represent hope. However, Joy's engagement to Anna represented money, controversy, and treachery. And every move was being seen by the entire world. It's often claimed that love is priceless. However, Joy Duan's new romance came with a very specific cost: $900,000. Joy's financial difficulties were no longer rumors by the end of 2025. They made the news. Fans who formerly thought he and Yara led a lavish lifestyle filled with luxury and trips were horrified to learn of his $900,000 debt. The truth was much more sinister. There had been debt collectors about. Rumored gambling habits, careless spending, and failed investments had all caught up with him. The life he depicted on television was collapsing beneath the weight of financial collapse. He found himself in a corner. Joy discovered Anna, and a financial expert subsequently stated, "At that level of debt, you either declare bankruptcy, strike a deal, or find someone willing to rescue you." Joy's lifeline was Anna, not only his new love interest. She had the resources and the will to step in because she came from an affluent family with connections in the financial and real estate industries. When Jovi revealed the whole truth, Anna didn't think twice about his debt. She promised to cover the entire amount. Every dollar of the over $1 million that hung over his head, every loan, and every past due expense. It was salvation for Joy. For Anna, it was an investment in their relationship as well as in his future. According to one insider, she assured him, "I believe in you and I believe in us." He understood then that she was more than a passing fancy. She was the escape route. Love or business. But that was not how the world saw it. Fans perceived it as more than affection. Similar to a business deal. Anna had effectively purchased herself a spouse, according to some. Others thought Jovi had compromised his ethics and marriage for financial gain. Some, however, interpreted it as a tale of devotion, with Anna taking the initiative when no one else would. Online, the argument raged. Another admirer commented, "Or maybe it's both. She loves him and she's willing to help." One of the most popular posts on Reddit said, "Imagine marrying someone because they care your debt. That's not love, that's a deal." Regardless of the reality, Joy's reputation was irrevocably changed. Isn't that what partners do? He was portrayed as a man who had given up his marriage for financial gain after once being portrayed as 90-day Fiancé's carefree, a little wild party boy. He was dubbed the $900,000 groom by tabloids. Talk shows argued about whether his impending nuptials were a real wedding or just a ploy. Even devoted supporters acknowledged that they no longer recognized the man they had once supported. The Joy we saw on TV was careless but charming. Supporter. The money transaction was the last blow to Yara, who said, "The Jovi we see now is desperate. He let money make his choices." It was heartbreaking to see that Jovi had not only financially ruined their marriage, but also emotionally deceived her. "He wasn't simply unfaithful to me," she later said. "He sold out our family's future. He chose money over us." This information motivated her to sue Jovo for reputational harm rather than the debt. The action for slander was her method of retaliating and taking back the narrative that she believed had been stolen from her. Their engagement announcement was greeted with much suspicion, despite the fact that Anna was quietly working behind the scenes to pay off Joy's debts. One of the most contentious celebrity events planned for January 16, 2026, was the wedding. For some, it was a love celebration. Others viewed it as a sign of corruption, a union based on money rather than passion. "There are sacrifices in every love tale," pundit remarked. But Joy's sacrifice wasn't about love. It was about choosing between freedom from debt and loyalty to his family. And he chose the money. Now that the debt is gradually being paid off and a wedding date has been set, Joe and Anna seem to be on the move. However, their relationship's basis was weak beneath the surface. Because Anna couldn't change the facts, no matter how much money she spent. Because of his decisions, Joe had become distant from Yara, was labeled a sellout by supporters and perched on the precipice of an impending legal catastrophe. According to one source, the money rescued him in one manner but devastated him in all others. Betrayal wasn't the end for Yara Zaya. A fight was about to start. In 2025, she made the decision to retaliate with the full weight of the law rather than with words on social media. The point at which Yara broke. Following the August 2025 divorce, Yara